Welcome to MarcusG.TV. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. I'm a chef on a mission. Today's mission is business. And it's a tough business, especially for the king of beers, Budweiser. So just recently, Budweiser has come up with a new policy, a new incentive plan for their distributors. Let me just read a tidbit of an article here from Mother Jones. It originally was in Wall Street Journal. But if you go online and look at Wall Street Journal, they require a subscription. Mother Jones does not, so Mother Jones did a great job on their version of the article. The title is, "The King of Beers Wants to Push Craft Brews Out of Your Supermarket." Okay? Now, before I get into the article, we don't serve big brands at my restaurant at Aroma Thyme. I refuse to serve Budweiser, Guinness, Labatt's, St. Pauli Girl, Heineken, Beck's. I refuse to serve any of those, Corona, any of the brands that are associated with Corona, which are a lot of brands, by the way. Budweiser InBev owns 200 brands of beer. 200 different SKUs, 200 different brands. They are the behemoth of the beer industry. They own a large percentage, okay? Now, here is my big problem with these breweries. These companies, whatever it is. Aroma Thyme in general, we don't practice buying from these big companies. Like I said, even Guinness. Guinness is owned by Diageo. Diageo is the devil when it comes to unfair business practices. So, what these companies do is they buy up other companies. So they bought up, like Diageo bought up Johnny Walker, and they closed the plant down. 500, 600, 700 people lost their job in this small town in Scotland, and now goes to production to a central facility. Rolling Rock, the iconic American brewery in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Those great Latrobe commercials on TV. Well, Budweiser bought them, shut the plant down, and now all Rolling Rock is made in one location in Jersey City. So these big companies, what they do is they buy the company. The only reason why that the company goes on or the brand goes on is because the equity, the brand equity that these companies built, Rolling Rock over many, many decades, Johnny Walker over many, many decades, has done all this work. And these companies go in, buy it, disassemble the real estate, disassemble the staff, disassemble the community, and then produce it in their facility at a much cheaper cost. And this is, the way that business is done a lot of times nowadays. And at Aroma Thyme, we don't take part in that because you work hard for your money, we work hard for our money, and we're not going to give your money to a company that is just into destroying economies and communities and people's jobs and livelihood. And let me tell you something, people in Latrobe, PA are not happy. The people where Johnny Walker was, these people are all up in arms. I mean, you're taking away jobs that have been there for decades and decades, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, 100 years. You're taking people's jobs away, their livelihood. You're stripping their community, all in the name of profits, okay? So at Aroma Thyme, we don't play that game. We don't buy from those people, this, that. When you come to Aroma Thyme and you give us your dollar is a vote. When you pull your wallet out, you're voting for an independent brand, for an independent community, for a real job, for a real business, for a real business owner buying dance lessons for his daughter. Okay, you're not paying for a CEO's third vacation home. And it's odd because a lot of people, not a lot, but several people still nowadays get so upset when we don't have Budweiser, we don't have Guinness, we don't have Heineken, we don't have Lef, we don't have Absolute Vodka, we don't have Grey Goose, we don't have this. They get really upset with us and they become angry. I had a bad review on TripAdvisor or Yelp just recently because we didn't have any of the person's call brands that he wanted. They were all big brands. The guy got so mad, he went on and wrote a review and bashed us and gave us a 1-star review. And I'm like, really? It's just, a lot of people are just uneducated. But the wonderful thing about our regular guests at Aroma Thyme is they're very, very educated. I'm so grateful for these people. They are fantastic, educated guests, and I appreciate that. They come in, they understand what we're doing, and they keep recommending us to other people. But it's those people that find us sometimes that just don't understand. They give us such problems. And I've even had other restaurant owners, other local area restaurant owners give me problems because I'm not stocking the big brand that they want, and they'll refuse to drink in my restaurant. If you don't have what I want, I'm not going to drink. I'm like, really? You have to be that childish? You don't even want to be open to thinking for yourself and thinking and having me educate you on economics and business ethics? And a lot of these are other business owners. It's mind-boggling. So into the story. Pity Anheuser-Busch InBev, the Belgian-owned behemoth responsible for such beloved U.S. beers as Budweiser, Bud Light, and Michelob Light. When InBev bought U.S. giant Anheuser-Busch back in 2008, the company accounted for 49% of the U.S. beer market, the Wall Street Journal reported. 49%, that's 50%, that's half of the beer market. Since then, its U.S. market share has dropped to 45%. 45% seems like a large number, but when you think 5% of an overall market you've lost in the last 7 years, that's a major red flag for Budweiser. You think that, okay, let's change our business model, let's change the products we're doing, let's do something, right? You think let's do something. Here's what they're doing, okay? Sales of domestic brands like Budweiser have dropped 5.7%. Even as craft beer sales, like independent craft beer sales, have skyrocketed 173%. Use its still formidable U.S. market heft to squeeze out those fast-growing craft beer markets. Understanding Anheuser-Busch InBev's maneuver requires a bit of back. After Prohibition, the U.S. government sought to limit the market power of the brewers by imposing a three-tiered system on the industry. So one set of firms would brew the beer, another set would distribute it, and the third would retail it. So when you're buying beer, it's typically going through a three-scale system. You have to change hands so many times. Typically, that's how it was set up. Three-tier distribution, three-tier system, which a lot of craft brewers do not like that whatsoever. And there are some loopholes around that. Much of that old regime has broken down in many states. For example, small brewers can sell directly to the public through brew pubs. But in most states, distributors, the companies that move the beer from the breweries and stock retail outlet shelves and bars, tap lines, and bottling offers, can't be owned directly by the brewers, okay? So you're not allowed to, Budweiser can't own their own brewery distributorship, okay? They can't own the distributor because it has to be, again, the three-tier system. But they can have major influences, contracts, and exclusives with distributors, okay? That can happen. To get around that restriction, mega brewers for decades sought more or less exclusive agreements with nominally independent distributors. Today, the U.S. beer market is dominated by Anheuser-Busch InBev and rival Miller Coors, which together own 80% of the market. Independent craft brewers account for 11% of the U.S. market, and that's growing rapidly. Even through craft beer tends to retail for $8 to $10 a six-pack versus $6 for the behemoth beers. Most distributors sell either InBev or Miller Coors brands as their bread and butter, the journal reports. But a smattering of independent small craft, and with a smattering of independent small craft brews. That's why in supermarket beer coolers these days, you typically find few national craft brands like Sierra Nevada, Anchor, along with a few local favorites. And then you walk past towering stacks of Bud, Corona, Miller's, all those kinds of things. So Anheuser-Busch InBev has launched what the Wall Street Journal calls a new plan to reverse declining volumes in the United States by offering sweet incentives for company-aligned distributors to restrict sales of craft beers and push more Bud and their products. This is from the Journal. The world's largest brewer last month introduced a new incentive program that could offer some independent distributors in the U.S. annually reimbursements as much as $1.5 million. If 98% of the beers they sell, the distributor, if 98% of the beers they sell are InBev Budweiser brands, that's Corona, that's St. Pauli, that's Labatt's, that's Leffe, that's Stella Artois. It's a massive portfolio. So Budweiser's saying to the distributors, these so-called independent distributors, if 98% of your sales are our products, we're going to give you kickbacks. We're going to give you reimbursements. We're going to give you sheltered income. You're going to get these rebates up to $1.5 million. According to two distributors who requested confidentiality because they were asked not to discuss the plan. So Budweiser, InBev, is telling distributors do not discuss this plan, okay? So they have to go now and do this confidentially. Distributors whose sales volumes are 95% made up of InBev brands would be eligible to have the brewer cover as much as half of their contractual marketing support for those brands. So if they want to go out and advertise and stuff like that, but Budweiser will step in, InBev will step in and throw them some money, which includes retail promotion and display costs. A lot of these beer companies come in and they give you the racks. They give you everything. There's that Corona tent that's sitting in those stores. They give you those. They give you all these eye-catching things to promote their brands. And I've known beer distributors to walk in and say, here's a brand new rack, new shelving system, and put it in place and put their beer on it only. InBev, which introduced the plan at a meeting of distributors in St. Louis, estimates participating distributors would receive an average annual benefit of $200,000. It's almost $250,000. So you have these small distributors that are pushing Budweiser products to get basically an annual average benefit of $200,000. That's a lot of money for a small distributor to get these kind of bonuses. Of course they're going to start pushing InBev products, and they're going to start pushing out the small craft guys. The beer giant plans to devote big bucks to the scheme, about $150 million next year, as part of the 3-year plan to restore growth in Anheuser-Busch InBev's most profitable market, the United States. They're going to spend $150 million while they're tearing apart the companies like Rolling Rock, laying people off, saving more money. It's just, this is mind-boggling. America needs to wake up. Restaurateurs need to wake up. Chefs need to wake up. We're all complaining we don't have enough jobs. We're all complaining that the economy's never really what it needs to be. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I've heard, the economy's in recession. We're in recession, this and that. And we're giving these companies money to further destroy the jobs, to further destroy these communities. We're giving them the money. When you take your wallet out, we're coming in presidential election. When you take your wallet out, that's the vote that counts. You take their money, you take their power. Now, Budweiser's lost 5% of market share in Bev. 5%. You're taking their power, right? The craft beers are taking their power. They're taking their money. Now they're going to drastic measures to regain that. So on top of a corrupt system to begin with, now there's double corruption to push the small guy out. At least one distributor has dropped a craft brewer as a result of the incentive program. So already one of the distributors has already dropped an independent small craft just to get it out of the line. All of this raises the question, under the U.S. antitrust law, can a giant company legally throw around its weight like that? The answer may well be yes. So, at Aroma Thyme, we don't support the big brands, like I said at the beginning of this. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to take your hard-earned money, my hard-earned money, and give it to people that just disregard everything. Disregard the way that money is supposed to be made, the way that communities are supposed to be built, the way that jobs are supposed to be formed. It totally goes against the whole anti-American, whole anti-free market. It goes against all of that. And so when you come to Aroma Thyme, that's why we don't have those. And I have to honestly say, if you're a customer that's going to come in, a guest that's going to come in, and you're making a big deal about us not having that, then we're not the right restaurant for you. It's plain and simple. Aroma Thyme is not for you. You can go to most other places, and even places that have a good craft beer selection or a good independent spirit selection. Still, you look back there, just like these distributors, their bread and butter comes from the big brands. Their bread and butter comes from Budweiser, from pouring all those cheap brands. That's where their bread and butter comes from. And they just throw up a few craft beers. Half their list might be craft beers, and the other half might be sort of craft, like people think Guinness is craft. I just can't stress this enough. You're not a guest for ours if you're one of those people. And when you know what you can do about this, not only can you pull your wallet out and vote in the right direction and vote with the almighty dollar, but you can encourage restaurants and say, you know what? I want to drink local tonight. I want to drink independent tonight. I want you to pick me out a beer on your list, a wine on your list, a spirit behind the bar that is owned by a real family. That's what my goal is, to support a real family. And more people that keep asking distributors for that, or bars and restaurants for that, the more that's going to make a difference. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. Thanks for watching. If you like my videos, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, and definitely please share this.